a specific knowledge and a specific skill to analyze our image. So in this chapter, we are going to see some of the aspect that need to that need to very important for our image interpretation task. How we do interpretation and what type of skill can help us for image interpretation, particularly which we are taking from the aerial viewpoint. So before we are starting, last day we also discussed about few of the important things such as digital imagery, because digital image is an important aspect of this type of interpretation. Whether you have analog or digital, maybe you can interpret it, but if your format is digital, it would be um, more easier to analyze. For example, you can do very easily the addition, subtraction, or multiplication from one to another. So your information, which is based by your photographs, you can get the information in a discrete numbers, and that numbers can be added, subtracted, or multiplicated, and you can manipulate many statistical equation, so that you can get different answers. And you can also very easily store this information. You can also send this information to others, and you can also merge different information together in a digital imagery format. So different softwares help us to do these things, and this is very important, that you can get some of the information which is very dependent on the location. You can also get some of the other information which is not a special information, not a location based, but that information can be merged with your image in this case, and that is also necessary. For example, you have an image of a particular area, for example Chittagong, and then you wanted to integrate some information which is not actually geographical based. Maybe you wanted to integrate the number of the educated people in a particular area, and this is not dependent on only for the area. So you have your image of that area, but you don't have any numbers, and now you wanted to integrate these two information. In one hand, you have the image of particular area. Maybe you have many upajelas in Chittagong. Okay, so each of the upajela you can designate it from, you can choose each of the area. Okay, and now you wanted to see which upajela or which area is more educated than the others. So you can add those information in your format, that means in your photographs image in a digital format. So thus you can just merge your information with one another. So whether it may be, this is a very easy example, but you can integrate any information which is not directly based on the location. That means it is not a special information, but you can gather this information and then add it or integrate it in your system. So when you can see any area, if you just recall that which area is more illiterate people can now living in that area, maybe your policy will help to install more educational institution in that area. So it depends that what are the things you wanted to integrate in your system, because aerial photograph which you take, this is only the information which can captured by the light which is emitted or reflected from that particular object. So this is only based on the geography. So you can just have those information which is dependent on the emitted and reflected light. But you can also integrate some other information which is not based on your light, which is maybe you can get this information by a survey or a detailed other way of information collection. So you can get those information and integrate that things with your digital format. So thus this is very easy to integrate. Digital's digital imagery, as I said before, that it is very easy to store, it easy to transmit, and many other things, but it also have some problems also. For example, if it is not analog, so most of the cases we store in these things in a drives or chips or any magnetic fields. So sometimes it may cause deterioration due to different problem of the format or software, or maybe sometimes some other causes, for example software installation or some other causes. So both the ways we have some strength for digital image interpretation. On the other hand, these have some demerits also. But based on the merits, we are now using digital formats in the wide arena of each of the cases, because that allows us more easily to interpret the result. Perhaps I show you in the very first class that some people, they were working to capture the to see the height of a particular hill in a image. So in that time it was in an analog position, analog system, and your image it was not digital, and then you had to do a lot of works to find out the answer. But nowadays it is more easy because machine help us, logic help us to calculate the things. Whether it may be digital or analog, what we do from this digital in this image interpretation process. So first of all, when you get an image and you have a series of image, you combine together and make a mosaics, and then you wanted to analyze it. The first task of your image is to image interpretation tasks are to classify your objects or features which is inside your image. So you have an image of many things, and now you wanted to interpret it. The first task is to classify. So how do you classify things, and what does it mean? It means you assess your objects, you assess your features, and then you segregate it and classify each of the item together. For example, you have forest areas, you have water bodies, you have many buildings, you have many, for example, some field, playground, or many things. So first task is to classify the things, and this needs a very good understanding that what type of things you wanted to be gather with, what are the things you wanted to exclude, and what are the things you wanted to include in your classification. So classification can, when you wanted to do a classification, that has 3 steps, or we can say 3 levels of your confidence classification. So in some of the images, very first, you can see you wanted to first of all, you wanted to know whether your image can gather the information of a particular object or not. So you wanted to know the object is present or absent in your system. You wanted to put the presence or absence of a particular object in your image. This is first. And then you recognize that things. That means a higher level of knowledge or knowledge about this particular object, and you wanted to identify a general class. For example, whether it is water or it is a land, whether it is a building or it is something else. So the second step, to first of all you found this object is present or absent, and then if present, then what type of things. So you found that maybe it is water bodies, for example. And finally, you wanted to know with more confidence and more details that what is the characteristics or features of that particular object. You wanted to specify, you wanted to know more about that particular object, and if you can know that, that give you more confidence about your object. So all these three level of things give you the classification. Sorry, sorry, আমি একটা ক্লাসে আছি, একটু পরে ফোন করছি। So classification classification can be in three steps. First of all, detection, then recognition, then identification. So all these three can be present in a photographs. Then your photographs or your image is we can say this is a good image, and you can know many things from there. But if your image is like more hazy or less in details, maybe you can only see whether these are the things in there or not, or maybe you recognize the things but not with more confidence. Then maybe your image is not capable to give you a total understanding or total interpretation. Okay, so this is the first level of your task, that you have classify your image. And then what you do after your image classification, you wanted to enumerate it. Enumeration means you wanted to count down or you wanted to list what are the things you get. For example, you may wanted to know what are the different buildings you have in there. Maybe these buildings are multi-story building, or this is a single house, maybe only the ground floor, or maybe it is a it is not brick built. So you wanted to classify it. So you have now the information of a housing system, and then each of the house you wanted to separate or classify depending on your objectives. So if you can do that, that means you are enumerating the things. So in image interpretation task also allow you to know how many objects or what type of objects is present in there. So now you have your numbers in your hand, and then you can take your decisions that which one should be you focused. For example, maybe you are working, you wanted to work with some of the houses. That houses may have may don't have any brick built condition. Maybe it is made up with some mud or some other materials which is more vulnerable for a particular disaster. And then you wanted to work on that. So to find out that, you need to enumerate how many numbers of that particular type of houses can be found in a particular area. After your enumeration, then you need to measure it. That means measurement. We also called it mensuration. You wanted to know the exact numbers or exact measurement of a particular object. So it can first, you can see two kinds of measurement are very important. One is you wanted to know the distance and height, or maybe you are going to know the volumes, or maybe the area, or many things. You can count down it. You can do these things very easily because once you have some logic inside it, because your information is not only a photographs, but also some stereoscopic view is in your system. So the photographs you got already by taking with a very nicely planned and when you get the aerial photographs for only the purpose to find out this interpretation task, then it is very easy now. So some softwares can allow you to give this information. What is the distance between 2 points? What is the height between 2 points, up and down vertically? Or maybe you wanted to know what is the amount of the area of a particular locations. Even some of the other softwares allow you, if you wanted to know the amount of the water that can be present in a lowland area, for example, any catchment area, that can also give you the amount of the water that can be present in that area. That means the volume of the water. So maybe you wanted to work with some flooding condition. So you need you are trying to find out how much water can be held up by a given area, and maybe that will also help you to reduce the damage of the flood level of a particular locations. So you wanted to know the volume, so and it is very easy now because you have already done your previous jobs. That means when you are taking the information in the image acquisition system, you have already a stereoscopic view in there. And when you took the photographs one after another with 60% of your forward lap, so that means you have already some logic inside it. And now you wanted to enumerate it. That means you count down it, and now you wanted to measure it, and you just go for some calculation, and it will give you the result very easily. But previously, if it was in previous time, like it was an analog system, maybe you have to do a lot of things with your hands. Maybe you have to you have to look upon with a stereoscopic view, and you have to do all the works by your hand, and that is more difficult in nature. And I think that is also sometimes it is not properly correct information can give you by an analog system. Although in aerial photogrammetry, it applies only to measurements from photographs. By extension, it has analogs for the derivation of measurements from other kinds of remotely sensed images. So we do have different kinds of measurements together and finally combined together in the image interpretation task. And it is also important that what is the ability of your image. That means it depends on your pixels, how many pixels can be found in your image for a particular point. So if your brightness is very nice, then maybe your measurement can be more quantitative in nature, and you can get more information from there. And you can get the information differently, which might not also be possible from other images that have less brightness. So some of the images can allow you the information which may not be also possible from other images that has low capacity or low brightness. For example, you wanted to know a particular algae from the surface of the ocean, and then your one image is very bright, that means more pixels in there. One image is less amount of the pixels or brightness in there. So from one you can identify the species, from another one you cannot, or maybe from both the images you can identify your designated species, but maybe not the total amount. So one image can allow you the information to count down it, but other images may not allow you to count down, only you can know what is in there. So it is all dependent on what is the brightness in there. So these two tasks can be done in the measurement process. Another, the last one of the classification task is to interpretation task is to delineation. What does it mean? Delineation means you need to know your uh, last phases of your location. That means what is the total area you wanted to interpret. So you need to know your boundary, and then you can say, well, this is my total amount of the area. So delineation allow you to see your total capacity of your image. And to do so, sometimes it is very difficult to delineate for certain cages, because the boundaries which we wanted to make an outline, sometimes it is very difficult to do that, because some a smaller area may be very difficult to distinct that personal things in your total image. Maybe you are working to find out some ponds of a particular area, and if the pond is very small, then maybe the boundary cannot be drawn, or boundary cannot be identified by your image interpretation task. So it is one problem. Another one is sometimes between two languages, it cannot be very sharp. Maybe it is a grassland, or maybe it is a shrubs, or maybe it is a forest. Sometimes it is water, or it is not a water. It is a beach area. So the gradation between two languages sometimes creates some problems to delineate your particular area. So these problems may also arises during image interpretation task. So up to now, we learned the image interpretation task, and specifically interpretation problems can be handled if you have more and more understanding about the particular objects of particular area. So sometimes it is also possible that some people are not aware of some of the objects, and when they go for the image interpretation task, maybe they do the mislead, and they cannot reach a decision, and maybe sometimes it is wrong. For example, if you do not have any understanding about the glaciers, then if you wanted to do the image interpretation task of Himalaya, then it might be little bit difficult, and maybe your answer might be, sometimes it would be wrong, because of the reflection of the ice and reflection of the general hilly area would be different, and maybe you may be misleaded by these two different lights, two different colors which can be found from your image. Similarly, if you do not have any understanding about some other types of land uses or some objects, maybe someone are going to do some interpretation task of military photo interpretation, and that person do not have any understanding about the military equipments, then maybe when they count down, they might be add something, or maybe lose some information wrongly, and then the interpretation would not be as appropriate what we wanted for. So this is all about the image interpretation task. Before I going to the next level, do you have any question regarding this?
No, sir.
Everyone can understand all the things? Okay, so in your exam, maybe the question would be like this. How we do the classification, or why the delineation is difficult, or what are the problems can be found in the delineation in the image interpretation task. Can you answer that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. The next one is elements of image interpretation task. So this is our image interpretation task, and then certain things or certain elements we can be found in a particular image. 1 minute, please. Okay, so some of the features or some of the elements which is very much important to do this interpretation task. So if you say interpretation, that means I mean it to identification, I mean it for counting, and I also mean for measurement and delineation. So all these tasks would be very comfortable or very easy if you have such elements in your skill. So these skills are very important, and these elements are very important to see for each of the object when we are going for the interpretation. If you have such if you do not have this knowledge about those elements, maybe sometimes you will be misled for the interpretation task. So among them, the first one is image tone. What does it means? Image tone means the lightness or darkness of a particular image or particular object. So as I said before, that the single color in any type of color, for example, gray color. So gray can be many different types of gray. So it could be dark, it could be light, and in between that you have some medium and light on many things. So why it is important, why the tone is important? Because for each of the color or when you go for the go to see each of them, then if you do not have this tone measurement, maybe you will be misled. For example, the green color can be found from the leaves of the trees, and also from the other fields, for example, grasslands, or maybe any crop fields or any other. So now the question is the darkness and lightness. So even if you have, you can say, well, some of the species which for leaves, maybe it is sometimes it is so dark and sometimes it is so light. During the first starting blooming blooming season, when the new leaves are coming from the trees, it would be very light, and then day after day it will be dark. So if you have the understanding of this tone of this green color, maybe you can also judge whether it is which is the season or which is the time that you are getting the information. When you are taking the information, you have some seasonal variation understanding, because that can be easily found from your image, that what is the time period when you are taking the image. And then if you see it is dark or light, then you can easily understand that it is a tender leaves, or these are the aged leaves. That means that the more dark in color. So it will allow you to understand the particular objects very nicely. So first of all, image tone, and secondly, texture are also very important because that also give you the information about a particular object, that how much rough or smooth of a particular object is. And this will also give you the understanding that that what is the pattern of that particular object that can reflect the light in which angle. So irregular surface, for example, when an irregular surface is illuminated from an oblique angle, that causes the pattern of the highlighted and shadowed areas. And you can see some of the areas is more bright and some of the areas are less bright. And the texture also give you the understanding about the condition of a particular large fields. For example, in your field, maybe you have some different species. Maybe you have rice, you have some other particular species in your field, in your agricultural field. And texture give you the understanding that what type of species is in there, because maybe all are green in color, or maybe all are light in color, light green in color or dark green in color. But the texture will allow you to know that what type of species in there if you have the information already in your mind set up. So you know which is more smoother, you know which is more rough. That means in a particular field, what type of roughness and what type of smoothness that can be found from a particular field give you the understanding about a particular object. So first of all, tone and then texture. The third element is shadow. Sometimes maybe light don't only give you the information. Sometimes shadow also help you to give you the information. How can give you the information? For example, any type of buildings or any type of cars or any type of objects that has some specific shadow. If you see the shadow, you can understand what is the object in there. If you see these pictures, maybe the first one, what do you understand from the first one? You cannot understand anything unless there are a small shadow in here. So you can understand these three are some reservoir tanks, maybe some fuel, maybe some water, maybe something else. You can understand it. In the second photographs, without the shadow, how can you understand there are some military aircrafts if there is no shadow? So shadow help you to identify the structures. Okay. In the third one, if you see if you do not have this shadow, you cannot understand this is a large tower of water tank or something else. So it is a large tower one. So all these shadows can give you the understanding about the objects. So that's why shadows sometimes give you the understanding about the particular objects. And it is very important because when you are going to interpret each of the objects, then you need to know the particular shape and particular types of object before, and shadow will allow you to choose the right answers. So first of all, take tone and then texture. In case of texture, it is also important that that roughness and smoothness can be also graded during the course of time. So not only the living things, but also another things. When you go for example, you are going to see the water bodies. So how smooth is that? And that will give you the understanding that this is a calm water. Or when you see there are multiplication of mottled surface, or maybe some coarse area, then you can also think about that this is not very calm and quiet. Maybe something are mixed up with that. Maybe it is now moving up, or maybe the wave actions or anything. So all these things will allow you to know the proper identification of particular object. Fourth one is pattern. Sometimes you do not have any other information, only maybe you have some pattern. and that pattern also give you the proper idea about an object. If you know the series of plantation pattern, then you can easily say this is a plantation. If you know about the building patterns, then you can say, oh, this is a residential area. Or some patterns will also allow you to know, no, this is not residential, maybe this is commercial area. In many countries of this world, then you do not have any permission that you can build your house without any proper design, which can be maintained by a particular area. So in that cases, you can see all of the houses are looking like same, and this pattern help you to understand this is what type of area. If you see these pictures, photographs, you can see the very first one. What do you understand from this one? You can understand there are a couple of buildings, couple of houses in it there. That means it's a residential area. And the second one, you can properly understand that this is a field. That means some crops or orchard in there, and it is maintained a line, each of them you can see. The third one, you can understand this is the loop which is created by some roads and networks. So from this pattern, you can know that this is a road and highways. Okay. And finally, these are some areas where some trucks or some vehicles or trailers can remain. So it is actually a park of cars or buses or trailers. So so you can properly understand about a particular object depending on the pattern, whether you know the other things. For example, here maybe it is not possible to um, know the texture, not maybe it is, there is no shadow also in here. But if you see the pattern, you can easily understand what type of image is in there, and you can properly say, well, this is my. So from this pattern, you can, from the last one, from you can also count down each of them, because you know each of the pattern. You can count down each of the trailer, and you can say these many numbers of trailers can be found from this park, or this is the appropriate size of this park. So anywhere, if you see any particular pattern and you are familiar with that, then your image interpretation task will be more easier. I think I should stop here, and maybe in the next class we will start from.
Sir,
Yes,
second pattern ta
the second one.
ji sir.
So this is an what do you think? What type of things is in there? What is looking like?
Line.
Yes. So you can see many lines, and there are some dots. So it might be some crops, some seedlings, or some particular tree species, smaller tree species which do not have any crown. So each of them are very segregated than another. So each of the point you can locate. That means these are a couple of seedlings or orchard, you can say. So it could be some fruit species, or some species which do not have any much more crown, that type of species. So do you think anything else looking like this photo looks like something else rather than orchard? What is your point of view? What do you think? What is the image of this one? Do you have any other idea?
No sir.
Okay, so what I mean that if you have the knowledge of particular pattern, then without other information, only pattern can tell you what is the object. Okay, so it depends how many different patterns you know. That is coming from your previous knowledge, or maybe if you are more skillful about particular pattern, you can easily identify that things. That is all about. So it doesn't only this 4 pattern, you have many patterns. You can identify many things to see the pattern. Maybe for example, you are Bangladeshi, so you know to how a boat is looking like, no? Boat, Nauka, yeah. So if you see those pattern, then or shape maybe also. So pattern also also say you that this is this type of things. Maybe you also see some of the raft. Do you know, did you see before that rafting? That means some of the bamboos that can be transported through the water. Did you see anywhere this
Yes,
type?
sir. We've seen in Kaptai, sir.
Yes, you saw that. So you saw this is raft. So if you know the pattern and then your image allow these images without anything, you can say this is bamboo, and you can also identify how long it is, what is the amount in there. Yeah. So all I mean that pattern also help you to identify and to interpret the image. Do you have any other question, anyone? So we learned 4 elements today, and maybe in the next day another 4 we're gonna discuss. So first of all, image tone, image texture, shadow, and pattern. Okay, so if you do not have any question, then when we can take the next class?
Sir, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, sir. We don't have any other schedule, sir.
Mm-hmm.